Hi, this is Everyday Expertise, and I'm Angela, and I'm here with Tania Mignacca. She is an illustrator and graphic designer. She's the creator of the webcomic Ponto, about the adventures of a hopeful and mischievous orange road cone. Welcome. So, how did you get started in illustration?
Well, I've been drawing since I was very young. I used to, when I was about 4 years old, I would see a Japanese animation on TV, and I thought the drawings were so nice, so I started drawing. And it's always been a part of my life ever since. So I guess it was just natural that I would become want to do a career as an artist, and mostly illustration was what I like the most.
Where did you get the idea for Ponto, and how did you get started making the comic?
It's an interesting story, actually. I always wanted to make comics, but I never had how can I say, I felt I never had a good story. So I kind of put it aside for a while. And what happened is that when I started university, I moved back to Montreal permanently. And I started being really interested in the city, the architecture, the different neighborhoods. But I also felt that, it was at that time that there was the whole corruption scandals and stuff, and all the construction started happening, and people were so depressed. They were like, oh, I don't like Montreal, so many orange cones and construction. And so I felt kind of I wish people could still love Montreal. So I ended up thinking, oh, what if Montreal had a cute mascot? And it turned out to be Ponto, a cute orange cone.
So you make Ponto in English and French. Why do you think it's important to sort of make bilingual comics?
Well, in my case, I mean, it's it fits with the Montreal theme. But the reason I started is that a lot of web comics are mostly in English, and that's when they become the most popular. So I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna do it, in English and French for the francophone readers as well. But I was really expecting the English to be more popular. But actually, the opposite happened. French is the most popular language for Ponto, and even a lot of Anglophones tell me, oh, I read the two versions, because sometimes the jokes are not the same in French. And so I'm kind of happy how it turned out, and I think it was an important thing. I also have other friends who make webcomics, and they also do them bilingual, just because we're in Quebec and they feel it's important.
And you have the rich history of the bande dessinée, the French comics and the English comics, and they're very different, the two ways of making them. Okay, so this show is very much about process.
Okay.
Can you walk me through the process of making a Ponto comic from sort of idea to finished product?
Okay, well, usually it takes me, I would say, about one full day. And the way I start is I sketch the page on, I draw it on paper by hand. And after that, I scan it, and I do the inking on computer now. I used to do it by hand, but then you end up correcting a lot of stuff in Photoshop, and it's never ending. So in the end, it's always better for me, it's easier to redo it on the computer. And then I do the color and upload it on WordPress. And I usually, people ask me often, do you have a buffer in case something happens? And every week, because I have to do it every week. I used to have, but now I don't. It's really hard to keep up. But at the same time, the good thing with Ponto is that I can be inspired by something that happens in the news. If something important happens in Montreal, I can tweak the story and draw something else completely.
No, that makes sense. Okay, who would you say are your major influences?
For Ponto, I would say I was really I've always been really interested in Japanese culture and manga and anime. But there's a thing in Japan which is called the yurukara, which are cute mascots. Each city has a cute mascot, and mascots are everywhere. So I get a lot of my inspiration from those characters. I would say a specific artist, I'm not sure, but I do have like for example mangas that I really like, mostly girl stuff like Sailor Moon by Naoko Takeuchi, and all the clamp stuff like Cardcaptor Sakura and all those things. And yeah, and I also have like other inspiration. What got me into Montreal was a lot of photography, and one of my favorite photographers is a Canadian photographer called Edward Bertinsky, and he takes photos of like how we're changing our landscapes, like he did a series on quarries where they used to remove rocks, and about how factories impact our world, and it's really beautiful photos.
You make really, really beautiful, detailed backgrounds in your comic. I've noticed this. Like for like a comic that you would think is just going to be about little cute characters, the backgrounds are very beautiful
Oh,
and
thank you.
detailed.
Like I sometimes like I don't always have time. Like I wish I would make some of them even more better. But I think the goal of the story of Ponto is also to help people see Montreal in a different way, or also help people discover Montreal. Like I have people come up to me and say, "Hey, I didn't know this place existed," like the Orange Julep, or they're like, "Oh, it looks fun. I'm gonna go now that I saw Ponto. He went there in the comics." But yeah, I think it's important if you make a story that takes place in a city. It's important to actually like
Depict
show
it.
the city.
Yeah. Okay. What's something you wish you'd known about comics and illustration before you started?
Before I started, there's a few things, but one of them I think, and it probably is the reason why I always wanted to make comics, but I kind of postponed it, is that like sometimes comics seems like very traditional. Like you think, oh, I need this specific pen, I need to do the colors this way, or like of course there's if you look at American comics, the style is there, or even European ones, and so you think it's this really traditional world. But what happened is that I took a class at Cégep du Vieux-Montréal for fun with a Quebec comic artist, Jimmy Beaulieu, and taking his class, I understood that you can make comics with whatever you feel comfortable with. You can draw with, just like a big pen if you want. Like it doesn't have to be fancy. You can like find your style, and if you look at what kind of comics are made in Quebec, everyone has like a different style completely, and it's really rich and interesting. So I wish I would have known like all the possibilities before. And another thing is that it takes a lot of discipline too, especially if you do a webcomic. You have to keep up with your schedule. That's like super important, because if you miss like a week or two, people are gonna, it's not that they're not interested, but they kind of forget you exist. And like, so that's something important.
It definitely makes you stand out if you're consistent.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you integrate your artwork into your daily life?
Well, for me, it's like I mean, Ponto is my almost full-time job. I also take illustration and graphic design contracts on the side. So like I make art all day almost. But yeah, sometimes it can be hard, especially when you're like a freelancer, to have like a routine. And like sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're like lazy, and like it can be really hard. So I try to like recently I rent a space in a studio. So in that way, like I have more a routine. So I just go there, and it's like a 9 to 5 job basically, but I do my own art, and plus I'm surrounded with like amazing creative people who also inspire me, so that's fun. And also recently I started another little project which is called Everyday Ponto, and I make a sketch every day based on what I did on that day with Ponto, so it helps me get more ideas, and it's also good to get more followers and have people interact with you on social media.
That's an interesting idea. What is your favorite thing about making Ponto?
My favorite thing. Well, I like drawing him because it's fun, and like it's so funny because you think, oh, it's just like a, like a little traffic cone, but there are so many ideas. It's like never ending. So sometimes I do little fan arts with Ponto or like little situations in Montreal, and it's always fun. And also what I enjoy is because a webcomic, it's really web based, so I also have to work on social media a lot. And Ponto has his own social media, so he's like this person, like this living mascot of Montreal. And what I love is the interaction with people, is people responding to Ponto and saying how, it makes their life more interesting and fun, and they send me photos of cones everywhere, and it's this whole environment it created, like I didn't decide to do that, like it kind of happened. So yeah, that's really rewarding, I think, and it's fun.
Is there a least favorite? Is there something that frustrates you about making Ponto, about webcomic making in general?
Good question. I think sometimes you like you in some situation, like you cannot be too hard on yourself. Like, yeah, sometimes I wish I did, I don't, maybe during the week for some reason I don't have enough time to do the comic, and I wish I could make a better page and get it out faster, or like, but you need to be in French we say indulgent, like I don't know how you say in English, but like kind of be like not too hard on yourself. And so I think this is, sometimes you can get frustrated in that sense. And also I get asked for a lot of things, a lot of merch, and a lot of like, there's so much potential to develop ideas, but sometimes, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough time to do everything. And it can be frustrating, but it's all back to, not being too hard on yourself, and accepting, what, like the process that's happening.
Yeah. So, does that go into how you deal with stress or obstacles in your pursuit of your work?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, also I think, like, for example, for stress, I'm not really a stressed person. Like, it takes a lot. I'm very laid back, and but it happens in some situation. And I think for every artist is that there's going to be people that don't understand your job, that are not gonna be necessarily super nice to you. So I think it's very important to surround yourself with, people who either do similar jobs than you, so you can keep being creative, and also people who support your work, and so make you feel good. And so I think that's really important in order to succeed as an artist, because like you cannot let people put you down. Like it's not a good thing.
Yeah. Do you ever get block, like a creative block?
I don't, not really, not with Ponto. So I think I've been pretty lucky. I know some people who've had, for months or whatever, but I mean, yeah, it can happen. And it's just a matter of, trying to change your mind, like, go outside, take walks, try to do some other activities. There's other way also to, if you want to be more creative, maybe like try a different kind of art, or yeah.
Okay. That's good. So we've talked about quite a few things, but do you have any more advice for people who want to start out in making webcomics or doing illustration?
Well, especially for webcomics, I think, people should just go for it, and, prepare yourself, have a little buffer at first, like I used to have. And if you can, like, I know some people are super organized, so they can keep it. But yeah, I think, a lot of people are hesitant. They're like, oh, like, I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but just do it for yourself. When, if you have a good idea and you enjoy drawing, do it for yourself. Don't do it in order to please other people, because it's not going to work. But if you put your work out there and you love what you're doing, people are going to find interest in what you do, and they're going to support you. And yeah, so I think, yeah, just do it. And illustration, I mean, it's a bit similar. Like, don't be too hard on yourself, and you have to be confident and surround yourself with people who love what you do. And also, there's also like as an illustrator, sometimes you don't really understand how can I make money or how am I supposed to charge for stuff. So you can reach out to, like, there's Illustration Québec, who's the Quebec Association of Illustrator, that can give you tips if you're starting. There's some groups on Facebook. When you have questions, you can go and ask, and everyone is super nice. And so don't be afraid, then just do it.
Yeah. You hear that? Don't be afraid. Just do it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. All right. So, yeah, I think we're at the point where, is anything particular coming up for you right now? How can people find out more about you?
Well, they can, to read the webcomic, it updates every Wednesdays, and it's at pontomontreal.com. You can also follow Ponto on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's Ponto or Ponto MTL.
We'll have links to all of this in the description of the video, so be sure to click down to look.
And also, there's I'm working on the Ponto Volume 1, the book, finally.
Ooh.
So it was supposed to be out this month, but there's a little bit of, I had to postpone it a little bit, but it's going to be out in April next month.
Okay,
so.
Cool. All right. So thank you, Tania. Thank you for joining us. This has been Everyday Expertise. Thank you for watching. Bye. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Be sure to share this video with friends and colleagues who may also enjoy this topic. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment below or check the description for our social media. See you next time.